Hello and welcome to the Played by NCG Vodcast, where we review the golf courses that we go and play. In this episode, you've got me, Alex Perry, and behind his camera about 30 odd miles away is Steve Carroll. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Alex.
Well, that's what Steve looks like. So Steve and I were a bit closer together recently when we went to play the famous Brabazon course at the Belfry, which returned as a European Tour venue in 2020 after 12 years away. Of course, it's also a four-time Ryder Cup venue. Steve, it was my first time at the Brabazon. I know you've only played the back nine before, so a lot of it was new for you. What were you expecting from the Brab?
I wasn't quite sure, to be honest, because all the attention's always on the two back nine holes, aren't they? The 10th and the 18th, which I've experienced before. So it was a voyage of discovery to see what the front nine would be like and see how that measured up against the back, obviously.
Well, I think that everyone is, of course, excited to hear how we got on at the 10th, but we will get there. We're going to make them sit through the front nine first. So let's start the first, obviously. Why would we start anywhere else? So for me, I don't know what it was like for you, but for me, standing on the first tee, it's about 360 yards, par four, dead straight, no real danger. There's a bunker on the right, I think there's some trees down the left, but it's not really any danger. It sort of lures you into a full sense of security, doesn't it?
It lured you into a full sense of security, didn't it? You found a number of the trees on the first. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice, gentle start. I think I hit a 2-iron, if I remember, and pulled it a bit left and still was okay. I think you'd be disappointed if you came off there with anything really worse than a bogey. I mean, proper players are going to par it, which obviously we aren't. But it sort of gets you into the spirit of it quite nicely. Quite a wide fairway. Obviously, the bunkers are there on both sides, if I remember rightly, and they do sort of catch your eye line. But I took an iron, so they weren't really in play.
You got the second, which is incredibly tight. I mean, we're talking about this first, which is sort of, you feel like you have an opportunity to grip it and rip it. That second tee shot is tight, isn't it? There's trees looming over you on both sides.
Did you find the trees there again?
No, actually, I missed the trees. I went so far left. I was at the back of one of the greens. I can't remember which green it was. Whichever green is on that side of the fairway.
Yeah, it was funny because I thought I'd get out blasting with the driver straight away, and actually I took an iron off the tee for the first couple of holes. As you say, you know, particularly from the tee that we played, 2 goes through a chute and then it opens up a little bit, but it is quite a difficult tee shot, and then it sort of sprawls out the Brab into some. I mean, the Belfry is obviously a resort, and it has that kind of continental feel to it. There's a lot of water. Some greens that sit aside the lake, and some, you know, where water really comes into play. I think the 6th, the par 3 as well. You know, water's kind of dominant really on all of those things, and that gives it, for someone like me who's played Sawgrass, for example, and played a few of the courses out in Portugal, there's quite a familiar feel to it then. You know, you sort of know what to expect really. Holes that are carved around lakes where water plays a dominant role, where the drive is important, but actually the approach is just as important as well.
And you come up 9, and 9 is kind of similar to the first in a way. It's sort of dead straight. You can see it all in front of you. Find the fair, probably a bit tighter. There's a few trees either side, isn't there? And you keep it in the fairway and you're okay. But really, all you're thinking about up 9 is the 10th, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't really want to diss the 9th because it's a nice hole, and the and the green complex in particular is interesting. But you're just looking across the way. And I found that when I got there, even though I'd played the 10th before, you know, as you walk around the clubhouse, the tee for 10 is basically right by one side of the clubhouse, and you just end up walking over and taking a peek at it.
We did, of course, go for it. I think that when you go and play the Brabazon and you play the Belfry and you play the Brabazon, you've got to go for it at 10 because it's part of the experience. So you and I shot a video on the day of us attempting to go for it. We're going to play that in full right now. We'll come back in a minute and talk about it. All right, golf fans, we are here at the famous Belfry Hotel. There's the hotel, there's a small car park, there's Steve Carroll. Steve, we are on the famous 10th hole. Which player do you think of when you think of this hole at the Belfry on the Brabazon?
I, of course, think of Seve.
Of course, and talking of Seve, that is 4/5 of your name. So
I want to see something quite spectacular here. Obviously, we're going to go for it. I should point out, you can probably hear we're going into quite a horrible wind. What's your little watch saying? 237?
238 to centre.
Little shot scope of V3 there. A little bit of plugging
into the wind. So I don't want to be a pessimist about this, but this is going to be quite tough.
Just grip it and rip it, Steve. I believe in you. Steve Carroll, 4 now. I feel like he needs something here. And he's hooked it. I mean, it's an okay drive if you were just playing the hole normally. It's actually fine. Like, it's a good drive.
It's a lovely snap hook layup.
Right, take the camera. See if I can have a go. Put down an old ball, sensible. Really suits my fade this, I feel. I actually really like it. I mean, we both hit good shots, but neither of them have even got close to the water.
They might have had distance, actually.
Oh, you're just pointing the camera at my face. All right, we have both gone down the left, nowhere near the green. What a waste of time.
Right, okay, so that was us attempting to hit the green off the 10th tee. Now, Steve, you said in the video, oh, this sets up for a duck hook or whatever it was you said, and then of course you hit it, but actually you left yourself quite a nice shot in from the fairway. I said I was going to play it down the left-hand side and try and get my natural fade back into the green, and I ended up hitting it dead straight, and I found that rough. Now, obviously in the video we didn't see what happened afterwards, but you actually played a really nice shot into the green and two putted for your par, and I ended up duffing my chip. I felt like I was in quite a nice position. I was up on that steep bank, and it's obviously a very narrow green, but you know, my ball was sitting up in a nice fluffy bit of rough, and I thought that actually I had quite a nice shot. And then of course I duffed my first chip, and then I had myself that horrible. I thought it was actually going to fall down into the water, but I had that horrible downhill lie and managed to get up and down from there, which I was very happy. So we both walked off with pars in the end.
Yeah, and it's stroke index 8 as well. I'm just looking at the yardage book. We played off the yellow tee. It was 284 to try and give us a chance. Although I'm just looking at one of the pieces I've written, it was 217 for me to carry the stretch. And really, I mean, you know, I'm not the longest of hitters off the tee, and that's not really a 1 in 10 shot for me. So it's one of those holes where you have to have a go. And I was perfectly prepared to do that, but when I try and hit the ball hard, it goes left. So that's kind of what happened there. I went back after we'd finished and watched a few groups come in, and it was interesting to see what they were doing. You know, they were playing properly to start with. So they'd, like, if they had a card in their hand, for example, they'd hit an iron down to the corner, and then they'd reload and basically have a go. And I think that's, if there was a competition on riding on this, you'd never go for it. You just wouldn't. I mean, 217 carry for me is like that. That's a decent hit. And with the wind in our faces, I think it was that day, you know, it's a pretty unlikely shot for me to get to. But even though it's stroke index 8, it's one of the easiest pars, I mean, you'll ever see. You can hit a 7-iron down there, chip on and two putt. The green sort of slopes up. If I remember rightly, it's on 2 tiers, but it's 2 chips almost. You know, it's a full 7 or 6 and then a chip, unless you're having a crack at it. But as you point out, you know, you can't go there without having a go, and that's the holes. That's the clever part about it. I think that you go there and you think, oh, did I really come here to lay up? And it torments you in that respect. It's very clever design because it's short enough for you to think, do you know what? If I really, really get hold of one, I might just get there.
Just before we get to 18, I just want to talk briefly about 16 and 17, because they actually, for me, they were my favourite holes on the golf course. 16 is that kind of nice, it sort of goes down a bit, doesn't it? And then the greens set really nicely on a couple of slopes. And if you catch a nice drive down there, which thankfully I did, that's probably why I liked it, it sort of leaves you with a short wedge in. and it's a really lovely green that slopes away from you, and it definitely asks for you to putt well. And then 17.
I wouldn't know, Alex. I just hit some bunkers. So.
Yeah, well, you were sort of chunking it way down the right, weren't you? But 17 is that nice, certainly for a fader like me, it's that nice dog leg right, isn't it? And the green is set really nicely into the banks there. Just generally, that my main thought of the holes is, first of all, the greens were very nice, a lot of undulation and they're quite quick as well, weren't they? And a lot of the green complexes, I mean, you've touched on this very briefly, but a lot of the green complexes were really nice, weren't they? Like, just really satisfying approach shots.
Yeah, and it's always in immaculate condition, and that's part of the appeal. There's an ethos there of providing a Ryder Cup experience for all of their customers. So the greens are always running at a certain speed. They're always playing very nicely and truly. You know, the fairways are obviously very crisp. The rough is what it is. You know, they aim to give you value for your money in that sense, and provide you with a tournament experience. So you're always going to get the best of conditions, or as close as you can to get to it.
Right. So 18. Just describe 18 for people who may not know.
For me, it's all about the second shot, really. I mean, I'd have to look at the course planner again, but it feels to me to almost go like in 90 degrees left, almost from the tee. You know, you sort of don't see a lot in front of you from the tee outside of quite a lot of reeds from the water that starts there. And I always, the 2 times I've played it now, I've had a tendency to go down the right-hand side, which leaves me, I almost have to lay it up on the second shot because I'm so far back, when really you've got to be a bit more adventurous and cut off a bit more down the left, because the more you cut off down the left, the shorter your second shot is. But I mean, it's a strategic drive, if I can put it like that, but it's all about, you know, can you hit that green? Can you go over the water? The green's obviously multi-tiered, and so many cool shots have been there. I'm thinking about Christy O'Connor in 1989 in the Ryder Cup, and again, the temptation is irresistible to just try and put yourself in a position where you can recreate those shots. I think that's what we did, actually. I think we, I was miles back and ended up dropping one down at sort of like 150, 160, just to have a crack at that shot over the water and see how far it could get and how close it could get to the green.
Well, we had a bit of fun, didn't we? We tried a little closest to the pin, and in reality what happened, the flag was on that second tier, wasn't it? Right at the very top of the slope, and then we both hit that slope, and both of our balls sort of just rolled back and ended up in exactly the same spot. So I think we just ended up calling it a draw. So just for, obviously you and I now have been there and played it, that's why we're doing this video. For anyone who hasn't been there and is thinking about a golf trip away, especially in these times where it's more difficult to go abroad, what would you say to them, just in a couple of sentences, about why you should go to the Belfry and play the Brabazon?
I think because it's golf history. It's held the Ryder Cup 4 times, and you know, there's that opportunity to go and tread where Langer and Faldo and Torrance and Seve and all the greats of European and American golf actually have thrilled us with so many shots, and 10 and 18 are genuinely cool holes and really, really fun to play, and it's great to have it on your CV. But it's not just a 2-trick pony. I was pleasantly surprised by the front 9. You know, I really enjoyed some aspects of that, and there's a lot to go there and enjoy at the Belfry.
Steve, thank you. Enjoyed your company on the Brabazon. I've enjoyed your company on the Played by NCG Vodcast. We'll have many more of these, so stay tuned to our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe, because we have plenty of cool stuff, including courses and equipment, of course, and prizes to give away. Remember to follow us as well on Twitter and Facebook and whatever your social media platform of choice is. Thank you, Steve. I'll see you next time.
Cheers, Alex.